You can do your part, too, by taking simple steps to make your home more energy efficient. Because together, we have the power to make a difference.
This message brought to you by Cumberland Electric Membership Corporation.
One street over there's a life I could have known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold. Things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Times gone by, I've traded black dirt into clay. I thought my memories would end. One street over's now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Let's get into it. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm Eugene LaVern, and this is One Street Over. We love to find out what's going on one street over from where we're living. We are living right because we are blessed to live and work in Robertson County. Words of our illustrious county mayor, Mayor Billy Vogel. You know, the county mayor primaries coming up so fast. I guess it's May 5th, if I'm not mistaken. And I hope you are going to get out and vote. We're going to stay out of the, we decided here at 1100 WSGI, this is a Christian broadcast company, so we don't get too involved in the politics of it all, simply because, people don't realize that because this is a terrestrial radio station, this is, a signal that goes out and is regulated by the FCC. That means that we have to adhere to equal time when it comes to politics. So if we talk about one politician, then we have to give equal time to the other, and vice versa, unless they purchase it and so purchase the airtime. And so you get into a lot of stuff when you start dealing with political advertising and political talk on radio. So that's why we quit having political candidates in to talk about that. That does not mean that sometimes there aren't people that are running for political office that are on these airways. And Bill Jones running for county commissioner, and he comes on. So different things like that do happen. So, but we stay out of the campaigning side of it. But I do remind you, and I say all that to say, plan now to get out and be a part of the county mayor election, because only a very small portion of our voters will get out and be involved in that. And that's a shame. We talk so much. We just had our Vietnam Vets Day. We're coming up on Memorial Day. There was a very high price paid for us to be able to have the privilege to get out and vote. And I wish more of us would be more mindful of that and really just make sure you get to the polls and do the things you need to do. We have got Shawn Elmore coming in with Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center, and I'm so excited because I haven't talked to her really since our extravaganza that we had last month, and I'm excited to hear just how it came off and what kind of funds were raised and those kinds of things and the impact that it had, how many people were there. Because if you were there, it was a packed house. We were at the center, and I don't know that I've ever seen it that packed out, but it's extraordinary, and it's just such a wonderful time. And so I hope you'll be a part of that. And then also, too, this Thursday night is the Decisions, Choices, and Option dinner that happens up in Hendersonville. And I'm going to pull up that information for you and let you know about that, because that's another one of these things. I talk a lot about, people are always asking me, and this is because I dipped my toe in the political waters for a while, what can we do to make a difference? And I say it over and over and over on these airways. If you want to make a difference, you got to get involved and change your community from the inside out. There are programs that are literally changing our community from the inside out. Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center is definitely one of them. So is Decisions, Choices, and Options with Joy Wassel. They're having, again, their benefit on Thursday, and it's going to be a chance, to honor Joy for all of her work she's done, because I think she's officially retiring. And I know, all of us know, when people in the work that she does retire, they're still around. And so you just have to know that that is something that if you've got a ticket to it, it may actually be a full house. I'm going to still try to go. Normally I sponsor a table, and we've just been so busy at school. We did our spring talent show at school, and that just consumed my time for the last month, quite frankly. And it slipped my mind. And my friend Susie Allen has reached out and wanted to know if I'm coming. I'm hoping somebody save me a seat somewhere, because I really want to come and honor Joy Wassel and all the work she's done at Decisions, Choices, and Options. And here's the bottom line, guys. Whether or not you're able to go to that dinner or go to the things like the extravaganza we had for Open Door, you can always participate in what they're doing by becoming a sponsor outside of these events. That's something that they do to bring awareness to people just in general. There's so many people. I can talk about Decisions, Choices, and Options. I can talk about Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center, CASA, and Isaiah House, and all these different things. And so many people don't know what they are. We talk about Recovery Court. People don't know. But there's so many things that are interconnected that are changing things in our community in a very, very powerful way. And I cannot say enough about how I recommend looking into these programs. If you can't get to one of the dinners, then make a donation. Consider making a monthly donation. On the Decisions, Choices, and Options side, we call those life preservers. And that is, I forget exactly how much it is. I'm wanting to say it's about $60 a month, maybe, that sponsors a kiddo if you do that. But there are so many things that you can do, and that monthly sponsorship from the life preservers, that is the thing that keeps this program going. But it is, okay, so it is, I've got the date here, which is Thursday, and it is the 12th annual dinner that they're having. And let me see if I can find a time on this. I'm wanting to say it starts about 6. That's typically about 6 o'clock when they get these things rolling. But they're going to have it's going to be a wonderful time. The last time they had an event where Riley Gaines came in and spoke, which was just a wonderful night. I wasn't able to attend that one, and I'm not sure of the speaker on this one. I'll try to get some more information, but this is going to be one of those things that you will come away, if you've never been to a DCO dinner, a Decisions, Choices, and Options dinner, or one of their events, you're going to be stunned at the things that they'll tell you about the stats, when the difference that it makes whenever they go in and talk to the kiddos versus after they've gone through the education, the difference it makes. It is changing things from the inside out. And the foundation of DCO happened with Joy had a friend, and this is, again, over 20 years ago, because this organization has been around for 20 years. But she was teaching, and she had a friend's daughter that had an unplanned pregnancy. And as she was going through the pregnancy, and she had made the decision to let the child be adopted because she was very young, and she knew that it would be very difficult for her to raise a child. Well, so many people within their church community, within the school community, basically said to this young girl, how could you give your baby up? And how could you do that? And made her feel so guilty. She ended up not considering adoption and raising the child themselves. But she says, how in the world is it that we're in a world that when somebody does the hard thing and what's probably better for the child rather than having a teenager be the primary parent, why is it that we don't encourage them and just support them in those kinds of decisions? So the thing with decisions, choices, and options, they come in and they talk to kiddos about adoption, and they talk to them about the how much better off their life's going to be if they will wait until a certain age before they begin to be sexually active, and if they will stay in school, and all the things that they can do to prevent themselves from having to live in poverty one day. And that's one of the first questions they ask them. They're like, how many of you want to live in poverty? Nobody raises their hands, but they talk about how that there are a certain set of things that you can do to prevent that from happening. And they talk to the kids very frankly about it. And they do this within the confines of the health classes and science classes and things like that. But it is a powerful program. But they need sponsorships. They need monthly sponsorships. And if you can't make it to the dinner, you can sponsor. You can find decisions, choices, and options. Just Google it. DCO, Joey Wassel, all the things will get you to that nonprofit. And you can become a life preserver donor. You can make a one-time donation, and it is one of the things you can do that absolutely will change our community. So I encourage you to do that. This is my husband and I both have said that they have a program where you can come in and they can come in and talk to your kiddos about social media concerns, because that's another thing that they do at Decisions, Choices, and Options is they inform you about some of the risk that are happening with kiddos when they're getting online that we know, but we just think, oh, that really can't be happening. And how they're targeting your kiddos, they're very young kids. I mean, all you have to do is just kind of sit to the side and let a kid get online and surf and even go to the kid programming and the things that they're seeing that you're like, I can't believe that's part of that. And you'll be very surprised at what you'll learn. So if you can get a ticket to Decisions, Choices, and Options to the dinner that's happening, the 12th annual dinner that's happening this Thursday night, and it will be at the Big Baptist Church up in Hendersonville. It's where they always hold it, and it is just always a wonderful event. I want to say it'll probably start about 6:30, somewhere in there, probably 6, but they'll have dinner. They'll have a wonderful dinner, and of course they want to encourage you to make a donation, just like they do with these kind of fundraising dinners. And it always turns out to be just an inspiring time if you can join us for that. We're looking forward to hearing from Shawn Elmore this morning. She's going to come in and give us a complete update on everything that went on at their big extravaganza. That happened last month, so we're excited to hear from her this morning about all of those things. But we do have a couple of sponsors that we want to talk to you about. Real excited to have on the airways with us Chris Armentrout, and it's just like it's Armman Trout, Chris Armentrout, and he came in with Scott Irwin from the Veteran Service Office a couple of weeks ago now, and when he came in to talk about the mortgage options for VA loans, I thought that Valor Mortgage was just for VA loans, that type of things. He's like, oh, no. He goes, we do it all. We got VA loans. We got FHA loans. They've got conventional jumbo financing, all the tools you need to get to the closing table when you're needing to get a mortgage. And we're going to talk about, this is just a wonderful pairing for sponsorships because we've had Barry and Rebecca Richards on since we began, longest running full-time sponsor, and now Valor Mortgage is a full-time sponsor, and it's a perfect pairing because one of the first things that Barry and Rebecca are going to tell you to do when you want to buy a home is you got to see how much home you can afford to buy. And Chris talked a lot about that. It's one of the biggest decisions you're ever going to make. You don't want to settle for a lender that's going to treat you like a number, that's going to come in and walk through, look at your budget, and just see how much home can we actually afford. We don't want to get in over our heads. I've talked several times when I'm talking mortgages and things like that about my friend. They built their dream home, and they realized after they got into their dream home, man, we can't afford this. And so if they'd had somebody like Chris to advise them on the front end, you need to really look at your budget hard and see how much home you can afford to buy. Well, they are absolutely equipped to help anyone and everyone. There's a lot of options with VA loans you might not realize, a lot of options with FHA loans you might not realize. And they're not just in the business of mortgage, they're in the business of making ownership possible for everyone at Valor Mortgage. If you're buying your first home, if you're refinancing, maybe you're investing in your future and you want to own some properties to rent, that's something, I've got a veteran in my family, and that's something that he and his bride are talking about, is maybe investing in property up in Robertson County before they move up here and making it a bed and breakfast or a rental property, something like that. Well, because he's a veteran, he's got some options that he might not have considered. So he needs to sit down and talk to Chris as well. But they're ready to serve at Valor Mortgage. They're just 2 doors down from the theater in the downtown square. You can call them at 615-671-9178, 615-671-9178, or you can go to valor.mortgage, VALOR.MORTGAGE to get pre-approved today. When it matters most, you deserve a lender you can trust. Buy with confidence. Buy with Valor. Valor Mortgage, here's the legal part, NMLS number 1210804, DBA of Encore Lending Group, NMLS 1249911, equal housing lender, subject to credit approval, rates and terms subject to change without notice, not a commitment to lend. Valor Mortgage, thankful to bring them online with us here as a full-time sponsor of One Street Over. And guys, I hope you had a great Easter. Oh my goodness. We had the best time. I saw more people Easter egg hunting in the rain. And that's what we ended up doing. I tell you, if you've not seen the picture of my family, we barely got that picture took, but we managed to do it. And it was all of us there. As your family gets bigger, what a blessing it is, but it's hard to get everybody together. Bill Jones saw my picture and he was like, man, that's a lot of birthday presents. That's another thing, trying to keep up with whose birthdays when. And we started, we have 4 boys and 4 daughter-in-laws now and 5 grandkids. We've got 3 boys and 2 girls and just a full old house. And I hope you're blessed with just a full house of people who love you, because man, there is nothing like it when we can all get together and enjoy our time together and celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I tried so hard to get over to the things that were going on at some of our local churches. We had things going on at Madison, and the first Sunday of the month is my Meals on Wheels Day. I spent so much time working at the Benevolent Center. There's not much I can do anymore because I'm all the way up here. But I told him, I said, well, I can do food prep, one Sunday a month. And so that was my Sunday to do that. So we had to take care of that. And plus we'd been with all of our family on the day before. And so we just took a real easygoing kind of Easter. It was very different. It brings back a lot of memories of always going to Kentucky and being with my parents at Easter. That's something we tried to always do. We would do the Saturday. Being a boy mom, and my mother, even though she had 2 girls, she had nothing but grandsons. She had great granddaughters and great-great-granddaughters, but all grandsons. And so it's hard to get them up there on the day of. So we would always do the Saturday of, and I've got such beautiful memories. Come on in here, Shawn. And I've got such beautiful memories of going up and spending time on the farm in Kentucky, and just thinking about all those memories, and then now bringing all mine out here to our little farm up here in Springfield. And you can sit in that first chair, and whichever one, and pull that mic to you right there. You can slide that one out of the way. I forgot to do it. But anyway, just push it over the side. Just kind of stick it out of the way there. But anyway, we just had a great Easter, and Shawn is with me now. Did you have a good Easter?
We had an awesome Easter.
You got two grandbabies, right?
We do. 2 grandbabies, 3 and 1.5. And
Isn't it fun?
oh my goodness, yes.
It's just the best.
Yeah.
You know, I've got 5.
Wow.
2 girls.
And you just had a baby. You just had a brand.
we
you
got
have
a brand new
one fresh
girl.
from heaven.
Yes,
right?
we do, and she's precious. Oh my goodness, she is precious. And then I've got the one from Jackson. We don't get to see too much, but he'll be 3 in November. He's a hoot. Those 2 and 3-year-olds are
Nothing
just
like 'em.
They're something else now. They're so funny.
Nothing like it when they come up, run up to you and hug you and go, "Shuggy," you know.
And then it's so fun. What's so funny? As they were getting ready to leave, he was making, and his name's Walt, and he like I said, he'll be 3 in November, and he was running around hugging his uncles, you know, and they were all like, "Oh, that was so sweet." And then they had some toys spread out on the ottoman in the center of my living room, and there was this little cow, and right after he hugged his uncles, he grabbed the little toy cow and goes, "Bye-bye, Moo Moo," and hugs the cat, and they're like, now we feel special.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they feel real special.
He's hugging it. But it was just so cute. It was just the most adorable thing ever. But just a great time. We had to do some Easter egg hunting in the rain. And, but that was all right. It was fun. You know, we got it done.
Yeah.
And my daughter-in-law's mom was there, and she was grabbing eggs, and she's the Mimi, Queen Mimi. She was running in the rain and gathering up eggs for the kid. I got so tickled at her. It was just, we had the best time. Time.
I think we cherish family a little more the older that we get.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You know, because you just, I don't know. I think it's time's more precious, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My sister sent me a text message yesterday and just told the family how much she loved and appreciated us. We celebrated my family on Saturday and just got to celebrate with the kiddos and
yeah,
had a lot of family time this weekend. So it was very, very good. Just kind of to decompress from the craziness of life. And I think they just bring such love and joy to you, you know. Mine have been living with us for a couple weeks now. They're doing their hardwood floors.
Oh.
And so they've come to stay with Shuggy and Pooh. Shuggy Pooh's house for a little while. And woo! I see now why my daughter looks at me sometimes and says, "Hey, can I just come over to your house and take a shower?" You know, just Mom, you know, because it's a lot. Like I just left the house; it was wild already this morning, and you know, my grandson he goes to bed early and he's up early. He doesn't miss a beat. He is
how old?
He's a year and a half, and
Year and a half old. Okay.
He's rough and tumbling, and he falls, and he's got a busted lip, a busted nose right now. He's tough, but boy, he's full steam ahead, and he doesn't stop.
And so is the other grandchild a girl?
Yeah, the oldest is a girl.
Okay.
And so she's princess, you know, she's pretty much rough and tumbling too. Like she likes to tinker like her dad does trucks and build stuff, and she's all about that as well. But she is very much a princess, and Shuggy brings her, you know, a sparkly dress, or I was at Walmart and bought her some kind of little tutu dress or something, and you would think that was the best thing ever. And then she's running around, got weeds in her hair, and having the best time. They love to be outside barefooted, and farm kids. They are farm kids, love to be in the garden, and so just watching them get to thrive. And part of what I think the joy, you know, our quivers are full, you know, that's what the word tells us. But part of that joy for me is watching my kids thrive. You know, yesterday we all went to the same church and we all were in church together. So that's kind of an anomaly because my kids are older.
You better believe it is.
You don't get to spend that quality time. No, you did. You know, we took our kids were in church every time the doors were open when they were growing up. And so now they've kind of flown from the nest and they're finding their way, and it's beautiful to watch them thrive spiritually as well. But sitting in worship with them and watching my girls worship, and you know, my son-in-law worship with his wife and my husband, we just kind of held our hands together and was like, whoa, you know, I got in the car and that was kind of on my mind on replay. So that was really sweet. And then, you know, getting the grands coming out running at us, and so we took some pictures, and just, you know, the simple things in life. I think we forget what a treasure they are, and what a blessing, and how much, you know, we miss that. I don't know. You know, times have changed so much. You just don't do those things anymore. Don't look at things in the same way.
I think that the work you do, though, would guide you to have much more of an appreciation for it. I know that being exposed to the things I've been exposed to through Celebrate Recovery and working in benevolence for as long as I did, and meeting so many kids in high school that have no one, that it just, I say it so many times, to have so many people love my people.
Yeah.
And to have that great love, and to I mean, as I was sitting here just kind of reminiscing about the full house and the full quiver that I got to experience this weekend, I'm mindful of those who don't have it, and it breaks my heart for them.
I think you're exactly right.
And so it gives me such an appreciation for it, even in the chaos and trying to navigate. Okay, we're going to do this now. We're going to do that now. Trying to get everybody, trying to herd the cats, so to speak. You get a little stressed with that, but then you go and just shake it off, because I mean, are you kidding me? This is such a blessing.
When you get to see a family, and you're right. I think I look at my family sometimes, and we just eating around the table is such an anomaly. My daughter, I'll never forget this. We were part of a youth ministry, and she was doing a talk to these youth girls, and one of the words that she had was it was just so raw in the moment, but her comment was, I'm kind of an anomaly at the high school, and she went to Greenbrier, obviously. Right. And, she said, I have both my parents, I'm not from a blended family. I don't have, my sister's, 8 years younger than I am. My parents are still married. They're in love. They dance in the kitchen type moments. Yeah. And, now we are not perfect. We are a absolute mess some days.
Me too.
We jokingly, we talk about being incredible, wonderful, blessed chaos. And my house right now, I jokingly, I wouldn't want it any other way. But the other day I said, I just need to clean the bar off, because the countertop, I need to have some kind of form of control. And so Friday, an attorney needed to call me, and he goes, are you going to be okay with me calling you tomorrow? I said, sure. I said, I'm just going to be at home cleaning the house. And he goes, Miss Shawn, are you okay? Because I got to the phone and I was panting, and I said, "Oh, I'm cleaning the bathtub," But that was my moment of control. Yeah. I needed to clean the bathtub. I needed to clean the toilets. I need to be a mom. I need to clean the bathrooms, and so that's what I did, and never made it to my bathroom until like Saturday night at like 8:00. But it was fine. It was good. Yeah, it was beautiful. But those are sweet blessings that I think we take for granted. But you're right. I have so many things. The last time that just a month ago, it seems like a year ago, but a month ago we were doing our banquet. And I called in, and we had to navigate some really kind of crazy things. And I'll tell you, at the banquet, you were there, we had audio visual issues. And
I didn't want to say anything. Oh, I knew it had to be just driving Barry out of his mind.
Oh, I'm sure. Let me tell you, I left there.
Say anything.
I'm just gonna be real honest, LaVern. I left there crying. I was so angry at, number one, the devil, and I will say this, because my comment that afternoon was, this is continue to be a problem, because the enemy does not want these voices heard.
Yeah.
And, but the number one thing in every comment, and, we had over 550 people at that event.
It's incredible. Yeah.
But the number one thing was the video and the personal testimony, the personal stories of lives changed. Regardless of what that looked like, the next day I was reminded that God still has the glory, that God was able to people were able to, and people, one of my friends goes, Shawn, I'm so used to Netflix, the words don't match up.
It was out of sync.
It was out of sync.
And trust me, Barry and them, they produced it in sync. I promise you.
It was in sync.
I guarantee you.
And he said, Shawn, I felt so sorry for you. I said, I felt sorry for the people. I felt sorry for our producer that was there, and Barry and all the people. But my VIPs, and you know what? They didn't even, it wasn't even a thing to them. It didn't bother them as much as it did me. But then I was reminded that the enemy did not want their voices heard. And we were talking about family. And so I got, I got to see and talk to somebody last week, and they have their kids. They're getting to do Easter egg hunts with their children. They're getting,
so cool.
like the storylines that, that we choose, they kind of choose us sometimes. And we try to slim them down. Poor Barry. I think he wants to pull his hair out with us. But when you have the incredible stories of some of these people, they're worth telling.
You bet.
One young lady and I met last week, and we're wanting to partner with her, and she would be a great advocate at Open Door, to be a peer recovery specialist, and she just wants to do something that's more. And I looked at her and I said, she said, I want to do more than just serve tables, because that's all I've ever done. That's all I know. And so I have asked her multiple times. And one point she said, I think I would love to, I don't know, like be a dental assistant. Like that was kind of a dream, 3 or 4 years ago. And now it's like it's almost like she's taken this great big idea, and she's bringing it down to, and she has already texted me the information, and we just started working on some things. It's beautiful to think that people are taught to dream. There was a time that she didn't have her kids. She was so clinically depressed. I didn't diagnose that, but she was clinically depressed by a therapist, and just crazy. But she just didn't have any hope, and I think that's probably the biggest part of it. That's what she and I were talking about. So neat to see her thriving. And yesterday I was thinking about some clients that got to spend Easter with their kiddos, and we had an incredible organization, a school. I don't know if they'd want me to say who it is, but they partnered with us and made sure some of our kids had some Easter baskets. And it was just sweet that this mom, had, and this was probably one of the first years that she's not ever had to ask for quote unquote help. And she was so proud of herself. And we talked about that, she said, we're doing okay. And we're able to do these things. And so it's really neat to see someone go from barely surviving to thriving. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the stories was a mom that, in her testimony is that I found my voice. When she got to us, it was, I need to, do supervised visits. I can't trust family anymore. I need somebody, the attorneys decided they needed a professional model. And so we did that with her, and I started identifying some things that were needed. And, at first the attorney was there. By the way, she was at our event. I wish that we would have interviewed her, but it just didn't work out to be able to do that day. Mm-hmm. But, she and her husband actually are both attorneys, and she was there with us. And this young lady, the first time we met her, we identified some needs that she had, and it was so sad, because you watch this person, and she was a shell, and she walked in, her head was down, she couldn't make eye contact with you, she couldn't identify any needs, she couldn't, there's so many things. And so I told her attorney, I said, these are what our team recommendations are. This is what we need to do. We really want to help this girl. You just want to take her up, hug her up, love her up, and help her build some confidence and self-worth and empower her. And about, 3 months in, she was very resistant. And then I think she realized that we were there to help her and her child, and got her child some help. And it was just a neat thing, because one of her words, and I think in the video, it did actually come off okay, but it was that I found my voice. And she's been able to, to articulate that voice. And recently I've been told to be very proud of her, because she was able to use that voice. But, we didn't do anything but other than identify maybe some needs that she had that maybe she didn't understand that she needed. Sometimes people, they don't know what they don't know, and denial is, part of our being a lot of times. And so I identified those needs, and then we kind of moved forward. She was very reluctant, but then, man, she's soaring. And so she's very grateful that she embraced what we had. And the attorney, I finally just had to talk with the attorney and say, look, if you'll encourage her, and if you don't see a difference in 6 weeks, then we'll talk. And she did. And, she's glad that she did, I think, but she's actually come alongside of us. I told her, I said, someday I'm going to need another attorney on my board, so she would be a great candidate, her or her husband. But we just see that. We see these needs, and you're like, wow, we're actually, I don't think we've talked about this yet, but we made an announcement at the event that we are hiring a male counselor.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
we need
I'm
we
sure.
need a guy. We need a guy.
Yeah.
He's a veteran. He is a.
So you've gotten somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You know who you're hiring.
Oh
okay.
yeah, he absolutely. He is going to join us. We're in the process of getting all the stuff together, and that is kind of quite a big deal. But he is a veteran. He is
Very cool.
he's he's got a master's in divinity. He's working on his doctorate or his doctorate. And so it's really kind of awesome that he can come in and he really, he's a youth pastor as well. So it's wonderful. We have a young family, a young man that we've already kind of identified about 4 people to send him.
Oh, wow.
So, and when we give the option of, hey, we can send you here, here, or here, but we have this guy, every one of them have picked him just to start. And he's like, man, I didn't realize it would be this quick that I would build some clientele. And I laughed and said, oh no, we've been waiting on you, buddy. We've been praying you in. So it's going to be a good match. So,
I love it. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's
We have
exciting.
we have a counselor, and then we have another therapist that's with us. That's an LPC. So they're all just phenomenal. I think they're all just, they found their niche. We can work with them, and they're kind of a great referral source for us.
Well, and counseling has just become a thing that people are realizing that they just got to have in so many ways. There's not any of us that doesn't benefit from counseling. One of my kids is a clinical counselor, so
and there's not enough.
And there's not enough. Nowhere near enough. Nowhere near enough. And it is just such an essential part of just being able to sort things out. And I've been blessed because I got involved with Celebrate Recovery, and that gives you an aspect of it, because you get those accountability partners, and it just exposes you to just kind of talking things out and get you started. But when you get into a place where a lot of these folks that you guys are, the folks that you are serving, when they get overwhelmed, and the next thing you know, they're just kind of digging a hole with this, trying to be good parents and make a living and doing all the things, and the frustration. You think about the frustrations of. I remember what it was like to be a young parent and to have financial strains and all the things, and everywhere you turn, there was money needed, or and if you've got other issues, if you've got some depression issues, if you've got chemical issues,
Imbalances, yeah.
Goodness, man, it's just it's just incredible. Or if you have some addiction or something, and people just don't realize what a disease addiction is. If you've not been exposed to it, if you don't have any, very few people don't have it in some capacity in their family, to see how it,
and how to navigate some of that stuff,
to get beyond it. You've got to have help.
We talk about tools all the time.
Yes.
In my realm, we're talking about tools, and sometimes a normal person or a normal family, or I lack normal tools. I have friends that are counselors, and I call them and I'm like, look, I just need a word vomit on you for a second. But so many times, I know shame doesn't come with that. Mm-hmm. You understand shame doesn't come with that, but so many times shame comes with that. I had a young lady that I talked to this past week that just had an absolute meltdown, and this person typically, I've been working with her several months, never seen this young lady behave this way. And I think the moment there was some shame there. It was very much overwhelmed. And then she said, and I've really messed up. And I said, you sure have, and I said, now this is what you can do to fix it. And, I said, what can you do to fix it? And she said, I don't even know where to start, and so we have to start a new day. But Friday, she's texting me because I said, I want you to, reach out to this, and this. She did everything, I asked her to do, sat out back and had a conversation with her. And, sometimes that needs to happen in order to really dig in and move forward. Some things it's almost like you have to uncover and, pull back the veil. I don't know how you want to say that, rip the Band-Aid off, whatever. Yeah. And that was a moment for her that she ripped the Band-Aid off. At one point, I had to look at her in this situation. We were in court, and I said, be quiet, breathe, and do not say another word. I whispered that to her, but other people had said something too. And she just she said, I'm trying. I said, now, and it was so raw. And when we talked, it was like she just started word vomiting. And I said, we've put you with the counselor. I want you to reach out to your counselor tomorrow. I said, I know she'll answer your call, so it was one of those moments that, we just want to make sure that person, because obviously that, there's still struggles, being a single parent, not having housing, the stresses of that, my mom was a single parent. We didn't have housing. We walked down the road, with 3 suitcases and 2 kids and a mom, got in a phone booth because it started pouring down raining. So those were days that, that was a core memory. And of course, that's what, when we look at ACE scores, those are some things that we have to, I laughed. We did a training with the Safe Baby Court recently. And, I was like, yeah, they talked about ACE scores. I said, yes, thank you, God. I've already processed part of mine, but I still think about processing sometimes. And those positive, moments and those negative moments, they find a balance. We talk about the fulcrum and things like that. And so many people are way down here because this is where they live.
Yeah.
They only have negative. They only have shame. They only have all the hard knocks of life. And they don't know where we can build positivity and pull those back together. And so it's, it's even, those negative things still, come up. They shape us sometimes, and we have to find a way to overcome them. So mental health is probably one of the biggest challenges that we see. I talked to an attorney last week, and he said, if we're seeing this now, what's it going to look like in 10 years? And I hope that people are going to school to get their mental health, because that's a targeted area that of need. But you got to be called to it too. I think there's been a couple people that, I've talked to that they're it's just like a nurse. I had a lady that literally is going to volunteer for us. We're doing a volunteer training, and we had our first meeting last week, and it was so funny because she said people aren't called into careers. They're not anointed for them. They are just looking for, where's a quick buck, where's the money, where's that? And that is true. We hear that a lot. Yeah, we hear it. Teaching is another thing that's a calling. I know that I could never be a teacher. I know I could never be in the school system. But I know that, that those are people are called.
I think you could. I think you'd be fine. But I get that calling because I talk about my son, who's a clinical counselor, and he's brilliant at it. He is. I want him to. I try to call and talk to him about things. He goes, now, Mother, I can't counsel you because I'm your son, but he will advise me on stuff. But he went into ministry originally. And ended up just continuing his study to go into counseling. Absolutely a calling. Absolutely a calling.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it. And I've seen people, and he had to work with people before he was licensed that were not called into it. Yeah. They just thought, this is what I'm going to do. And they just some of the tales he would tell me and the frustrations he would deal with, because he goes, they're doing damage.
Yeah.
They're doing damage. And it takes unique people. But it's such a necessity. It's such a necessity.
Unfortunately, some people don't realize the need for counseling, and they feel like it's a shame moment.
Oh, my goodness, no.
Recently, I gave a young lady, I said, because she came in and she was just really struggling. There was a lot going on there. And I said, I've got a gift for you. And she looked at me finally, and she said, you would because we don't charge for counseling services at Open Door for especially DCS clients and things, but sometimes they have to pay a very minimal, like a copay if they're a divorce case or something like that,
right,
just because
right.
it's kind of an accountability thing, but it's very rare. But I'll be honest with you, she looked at me and she said, why would you want to help me? Why would you want to invest? Because I told her it was an investment, and she was basically talking about, why would you want to do that? I don't deserve that. I said, but you do.
Yes.
And so it's really sad that we have, I guess we've made it a very shameful thing.
Less so now, I think, as the younger generation coming along. My generation, I say our generation, I'm older than you, but by a generation at least, I think. But my generation made it, because we all, I can think about, I talk a lot about my sister's, she was bipolar, and you just didn't talk about it back
Yeah.
then. And my dad was, thank the Lord, was very aware because he had other family members that had struggled, and so he knew something was going on.
Yeah.
And he tried to get her help early on, but he still thinks, if I'd have gotten her help even earlier, how much better off she would have been. And so, but my generation and the generation before is like, well, you didn't talk about that stuff,
Right. Right. Swept it on the rug, kept your mouth shut. Yeah.
Yeah.
And today, though, there is still that stigma, or that there's just something there and it almost is, there's something wrong with me. They don't, but this young lady has embraced this, which is really kind of a neat, beautiful thing. And, after the last session she had with our counselor, she walks out and the counselor says, "Hey, we need you for a minute." And I said, "Okay." And the little girl you could tell she'd been crying. And she said, she just needs a hug. And I mean,
Aww.
I just got to love on her. It was so fun. It was just
great.
Yes. And she just, she said, "Thank you so much for, allowing," and it was just really a moment, but it's been a long time to get there. She had absolute breakthrough, but it was just wow. It was those wow moments. But, finding yourself, having to admit, that, man, I got to work on stuff. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot, so mental health is a big component to some of the issues in our society for sure. I was doing some training with some addiction just because I try to remain aware. And that was something that somebody said is, I was going down this deep hole, and it was basically depression and these kind of things. And then I was watching and I'm thinking I could see the mirrored things in so many of the folks that we get to love on,
Get the blessing
and
of
get
it.
the blessing of it and get to deal with. And it's like, if we could identify that, and I hear this, I heard this past week, I'm good, I'm okay. There's no way that we can have the level of trauma in our society that we don't, that everything's just okay. I think that's where that comes from. If it's over
It's okay
here,
not to be okay.
yeah, it's okay if it's over here. I don't have to deal with it, but somewhere along the line it creeps up because you deal with addiction, you deal with there's no self-esteem, you can't there's a lot of dysfunctional things that we deal with in society. So, things aren't really okay. I mean, I have to deal with a lot of stuff from my childhood. I mean, and I have a therapist that I call very often. That's a friend that I can call. That I can call and say, "Hey, I think I need a session, virtual, whatever, how can you get me in?" Because, she's very well aware. And so I'm a big advocate for counseling and therapy. And we have to say sometimes we need to send you to a medical professional to make sure, they can do an assessment or something like that, and that you don't need to have medication. And we found that one of my moms really needed her medication.
Right.
And, our therapist said we need to get her a medical evaluation, and I'll tell you, it changed her entire world. And by her own words, she was talking to me, a couple weeks ago, and basically said, "I was so glad, that we finally got my medicine right." So I think some people think that medicine's also, but I have, diabetes, so I'm going to take my meds, or I have problems like I'm going to lose a foot, or I'm going to, what I'm saying, my sugar's going to be so nuts, my kidneys are going to fail. The things that I don't think we realize that, we're in that same spin.
Shonda Pierce talks about it because she's struggled with, depression and things like that. And she always liked it because, she teaches and she works. She's a comedian, if you don't know who she is. And she does a lot of shows in churches and stuff. And she'll get some criticism because she talks about getting properly medicated and all of that. And she will look at somebody across the way and she'll go, "Well, take your glasses off and drive."
Yeah.
It's
Right.
your brain is an organ in your body, and sometimes it just is not clicking right. And isn't it a wonderful thing that they have things that can help? I saw it with my sister, absolutely. And people just don't realize the necessity of being properly evaluated, because so much of the addiction that people get into, at the root of it is problems within the mental health, or it's early traumatic experiences of childhood that we've talked about through Safe Baby Court, the things that have happened to them early on that just change them. And you have to deal with it. And it's just, I don't know.
Well,
We just need
and
to
we
have more
know
understanding.
For our 10-year-old, and listen, do I believe God can heal anyone?
Absolutely.
100,000
And me
million
too.
percent.
You better believe it. Absolutely.
But, we've had to have a conversation many times about our 10-year-old. I mean, just to be very transparent, a lot of folks that know us know that we have struggled. She came to our home. We have a gotcha day coming up, and she came into our home very young, and she was an infant. She was, less than 2 weeks old, 10 days old. But she doesn't know anything outside our home. So there was trauma in the womb. We know that has affected her brain and the way that the brain processes. We know that that when children are exposed, she's a NAS baby, so we know when children are exposed to substance abuse in the womb, we know that changes our brain chemistry. So it took a long time for us, but she would have night terrors, and we're talking 2 and 3 years old that were just, she'd wake up 8 to 10 times a night. We had all kinds of sleep studies and these kind of things, and they were just saying this is just her brain. She does not sleep. And so we had to figure out, what we had to do for her. And it was an individual thing. But as a mom and as a dad, it was so difficult. She had a difficult morning this morning, just to be honest. But we did have to get her some medication. And it took us about 2 years ago when I realized I was at Walmart that she had superhuman strength, literally, because when I say that, it was almost a friend of mine's she was like possessed, and I laughed and said, yeah. But she did not want to go into Walmart. And when we went into Walmart, she wanted something. So she was hyperfixated, was totally dysregulated, went kind of nuts, hit me with a buggy, started out just being very just disrespectful. And literally it took 5 Walmart employees seeing what was going on. A lady was watching me because I think she thought I was abusing her, but she realized, I'm a big girl. It's not like I can be thrown around, right? Well, this kid was grabbing me by my crossbody and slinging me in the store. And I had held onto a rack. My husband was in my ear, and he couldn't help me. He was at work. And this man said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And I said, "She is an absconder. She's a runner. So at any moment she was fixing to run. I know. And once she can run out, she is very wild-eyed and dangerous. She does not see danger. She just runs and does some things." So I asked them to get my car and bring it up to the door. And when she realized that people were looking and all that, she just kind of sank and ran down my leg and hung on for dear life. And we ended up getting her to the car. But it was really a situation that could have been very volatile because I, at that point, could not. I was thinking, I'm in trouble. I'm here by myself. And, so we have to be very careful, but I knew then that we needed something. And so we have had to help her, but she's, there's violent tendencies there with her that we've not, it's been a very difficult road for us. She's gotten better. We just had our checkup and we're changing things, hormones change things as well. But yeah. I'll be very honest with you. My family, they don't always understand. Then they're like, whoa, they see. So even people close to us, family members that have tried to help keep her, we have good friends that would see her lose it. And she would beat her head on the concrete floor at church. And there were things that were happening that we just were trying to get every kind of therapy, every kind of everything that we could, think of. But it finally took her having medication that regulates her brain. And she will look at me, and she called me from school probably back last fall because we forgot her medicines one morning. And she knew it, and I brought them to her because she said, I forgot my meds, Mom. And I said, it's okay, Mom will bring them to you. But she knows, and she'll tell me her brain is fidgety or her brain is like spaghetti. She can, in her own little words, she's going to tell me how her brain's not right.
Wow.
And she can tell, and she's 10. She was 10 at the time, but she could tell me, we watched how she could think. We watched her make eye contact with us. It was incredible. We went to Vanderbilt. We talked about the CBD at Vanderbilt. We did all the things, but we've had to do a couple things, and she's come a long way. She's gotten to be an AB student.
Oh, wow. That's great.
BCs, yeah, we did. We were completely failing, kindergarten, first, second grade, third grade. We had the best year we've ever had. She's in fourth grade this year.
That's wonderful.
But there were days that we would go outside of Greenbrier Elementary, and she would wrap herself around the big yellow poles out there, and the teachers would have to help me like pull her off of them and hold. It was unreal. She'd be under the desk screaming and crying, and she was so overstimulated and overwhelmed. And so when you start working with that, and wow, I mean, we had an IEP meeting this year, and we were like, yeah, we don't have anything to really, we're just coasting. Let's just stay right here and be steady. So it was a beautiful thing, that it's taken all this time. Yeah.
And you think about, I'm just listening to you tell these stories, and I think about how you understand the resources, you understand the path. How many families don't have a clue?
Well,
and they have these situations come up in their families, and they don't know how to navigate it. That's why it's so crucial what the work y'all do with
we
Open
didn't
Door.
we didn't know that. I had to live this to get the resources. But honestly,
and it's part of your testimony.
It is.
Really
I was going to say,
it was calling me like crazy.
God was very gracious to us, and we're still working on that. Working with Shine Pediatric Therapy, she loves Shine, but there were times at Shine, like I would have to shove her in the door and leave because she was so, combative, and she loved Shine, and she made the comment the other day, I'll go back to Shine, Mom. I love it there.
Oh, wow.
And so, the girls and the guys at Shine Pediatric Therapy, thank God for Erin Cobb and all that she did for us. Praise the Lord. But we got into a lot of we did ABA therapy, we did PCIT therapy, we did all these things. Well, now I get to use the blessings of the hardships that we had, because God doesn't waste anything. And I get to help other families. And there was a family that we dealt with a couple years ago. They did a video, and it was like, we just identified, hey, we need to get him help. So go to your doctor and talk to your doctor about these things and tell them what's going on. They thought this was normal. And we were like, oh, no, this isn't normal. And so we helped her write down, and we got to help them navigate, get the right diagnosis, get the right therapies in place. This kid's whole life has changed. This mom's changed. The dad's changed. It's not us. It was just that we got to say, oh, this isn't normal.
Right.
A lot of times with these kiddos, we see things now, doing this for 18 years. We're like, hey, we need to probably have an evaluation. A lot of times, things come out of that. Can we get, we know age appropriate things, and can we get TEIS involved? Can we get something involved? So we try to advocate for those needs, because you don't know what you don't know,
For sure. We need to pause. I need to do a break. It's 5 till. I know we get to talking, and we just go down all kinds of rabbit holes, but it's information y'all need to understand the work that they're doing at Open Door. It's all of it. It's all of it. Yeah. And there's so many things. We could do another hour just kind of giving a review of all the things that happened as a result of the extravaganza. If you have some numbers to share, you gave the number as far as how many you came. So let's do an update on that. But we're going to talk about Barry and Rebecca here real quickly. They're our longest running full-time sponsor, and we love them so very much. They're so involved with Open Door, and they actually have an open house coming up in Cross Plains this coming Saturday. It's going to be at 2 p.m. It's at 2136 Neal Lane in Cross Plains. It's a beautiful little home. Love it. And if it's something, Cross Plains living, is that something you've been wanting to do? Well, there you go. There's a home for you to look at. And there's all kinds of listings. Barry and Rebecca, if you have, if you're in a specific area, maybe you want to live across the state line in Kentucky, the broker that works with Rebecca can still broker deals in Kentucky. Not all can. They changed their laws. Barry and Rebecca are like myself. They're originally from Kentucky, so they get all that Kentucky law stuff and the change. And because they have a state income tax, how does that change? If you're working in Tennessee, you still got to pay it. And what's that going to do to your bottom line? That's going to hit your budget a little bit. How much home can you buy? We talked about calling Valerie and getting that mortgage assessment and seeing how much home you can buy. Well, if you're selling, you need to get that free property assessment to say, what's my home worth? What should I be asking? I don't want it sitting out there for sale forever and ever and ever. Well, if you don't price it right, it might, because then the people can't get financing to purchase it. So all these things come into play. when it comes to buying or selling, or maybe you want to be a realtor. Anything that you're considering about real estate, Barry and Rebecca are uniquely equipped, coming from different backgrounds. They went into real estate as a second career, and man, they can fill you in anything you can possibly imagine when it comes to a real estate question. I have never asked them anything that they didn't know at least where to go and source the answer if it was something maybe they didn't readily have available as far as information. Now, they've also got some links on their website and on their Facebook page for scholarships that are available for kiddos right now. So if you got a senior, if you know of a senior, have them go and check that out. There's a lot of scholarships out there, some real estate scholarships they can look at, but don't miss this open house coming up on Saturday at 2 p.m. It's at 2136 Neal Lane in Cross Plains. If you want to contact them about buying, selling, being a realtor, whatever it might be, you can go to sellwithbecky.com, or you can go to robertsoncounty.com. And remember to give them a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, or 7424. And as always, we say, let them know you turned sent you. So just before we run out of time, how did we do at the dinner?
We did great. Let me tell you about the number one thing that probably came out of the dinner. I received a quote for a roof. You know, our roof needs to be repaired. The cost of that is upwards of we were quoted $150,000 when we bought the building. But it was repairable at the time. We're having to repair it with every storm and every ice storm, and this last ice thing really did us in.
I'm sure.
So we have a quote that's less than $50,000, and we have a manufacturer that's willing to come and partner with us, and it's incredible. So
materials, they're
donating. They're donating
fabulous.
A lot. So we are working on that. I sent an email to my board today for final approval, basically, because we've done the legwork. So it's really we talked about at the banquet connections. With that many people, we went into the banquet probably less than what we've ever, and this year we've come out like this is the highest grossing banquet we've ever had.
That's fabulous.
We don't even have all the numbers yet because we have so many pledges for 90-day pledges, so we're only 30 days out. That's one thing. And then the other thing was we had the graciousness of monthly donors, which was awesome. So that was just put into place on March the 31st, I guess. So really kind of a neat thing. So we wait until the end of the year to give any kind of numbers because we don't know. We have to take.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's exciting. Yeah. Sorry, my computer just decided to go crazy.
So I had one gentleman that doubled his monthly giving, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm able to do that," and I've had others that have been so gracious to do that as well. So that is really, our bread and butter. That keeps our lights on. Yeah. It keeps our doors open. It's a lot of those fine-tuned things. So it's beautiful. We're expanding some services, so we're excited about our male counselor and things like that. So that will help us do that.
I love that. And of course the ultrasound stories and all the things, the twins.
We're gonna bring that next time. I think I'm gonna have one of my girls come help.
I have a question, and we're out of time, but is there any way we can see the video outside of the dinner? Do y'all publish that?
We do. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll see we publish it at different times. So yeah, we ran part of it last week actually. So we break that down. Barry, our favorite Barry,
breaks it into segments.
Yes. So you'll see that, and then if there's any, like if you wanted to see that, I can maybe
that twin part. I'm just telling
the twin
you,
part. We're actually gonna. Yeah, it's
so powerful. It is so powerful.
Yeah,
it is so powerful, and to have them there.
Yeah.
Everybody holding them. It was just oh my gosh, it was just breathtaking.
Yeah. They're so happy and healthy. Yeah. They're so happy and healthy and they're doing so good. So
yeah, it's just such a joy. But being a twin mom and understanding all
we'll highlight that May. I think the 1st of May, I don't remember what day it was. I know I have to swap something, but we'll try to get that. We'll try to bring that in and
it's just so cool. So cool. So cool. Shawn Elmore, anything that you need that we're missing that you need everybody to know?
We're cooking with gas. Our numbers last year were so high this year that we're not getting any breaks right now. We're just God is just good, and we're just able to, the more that we think that we can't do, the more God shows us we can, and we're able to serve more. So
I love it. I just love the beauty of it, the vision of it, all the story. I love the story of one of these days we got to sit down and maybe next month. Let's just, the minute you get here, let's just tell the story of how it all happened. Because for somebody that doesn't know the story of how this all came to be, it is, God's all over it. God's all over
Absolutely.
it. And you can't deny
definitely
it. From you
thumbprint.
sitting and drawing in church, the plans and just all these stories that I know. But people who have not heard that, they need to hear that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think we just every now and then just need to retell it, So maybe next month we'll do that. Love you, friend.
Love you too. Thank you for having me this morning.
Absolutely. And love you guys for being here with us. And I hope you'll join us tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day we'll talk about all things White House. The chamber will be here along with one of their representatives from the administrative offices. And hope you'll join us too. Tomorrow is the day we look at White House. So be here and have a wonderful day. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless you.